The stars had watched humanity for a very long time. Hidden probes floated in the darkness of space, recording everything. They watched humans fight their wars. They watched them split the atom and nearly destroy themselves. They watched them reach for the moon, then Mars, then the moons of Jupiter. For 300 years, the Galactic Assembly observed this small blue planet and its strange, violent, short-lived creatures. The Assembly was ancient. 4,000 species had joined its ranks over 11,000 years. Some joined willingly. Most did not. The Assembly believed in order. It believed that stronger species should rule weaker ones. This was simply the natural way of things. Every new species discovered was measured, tested, and given a rank. The strongest sat at the top. The weakest served at the bottom. Humanity had been ranked long ago, before they even knew aliens existed. They were classified as Tier 7, one of the lowest ranks possible. Violent but primitive. Clever but self-destructive. Useful only for labor and nothing more. Now the time had come to collect them. Ambassador Vethorn stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. He was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 eyes that saw in spectrums humans could not imagine. Behind him, 11 more dreadnoughts held position. Each ship was 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could crack a planet in half. This was a pacification fleet, designed to terrify young species into immediate surrender that it had never failed. Not once in 6,000 years. Veteran looked at the blue and green planet on his view screen. Earth. Such a small world. Such a fragile species. He almost felt sorry for them. Almost. He opened a communication channel and began to speak. His words were translated instantly into every human language and broadcast across the planet. "People of Earth," he said, his voice calm and cold. "I am Ambassador Vethorn of the Galactic Assembly. Your world has been observed and evaluated. You have been classified as a Tier 7 species under the Universal Hierarchy. This classification is final and cannot be appealed." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "You are hereby ordered to surrender all sovereignty to the Galactic Assembly. You will disarm your military forces. You will submit to population management. Your people will serve the greater civilizations of the galaxy as workers and laborers. This is not a request. This is your only path to survival." Vethorn clasped his hands behind his back. "You have 24 hours to accept these terms. Resistance will result in the destruction of your major cities. Compliance will be rewarded with mercy. The choice is yours." He ended the transmission and smiled with satisfaction. On the bridge, his officers exchanged confident glances. They had done this many times before. The pattern was always the same. First came shock. Then came fear. Then came desperate attempts to negotiate. Finally came surrender. It was inevitable. On Earth, the transmission was received in the United Earth Parliament building in Geneva. Leaders from every nation had gathered in the Great Hall, watching the aliens' message on massive screens. When the transmission ended, there was silence. President Chun of China leaned forward. Prime Minister Williams of Britain rubbed his temples. The American Secretary of State whispered something to his aide. Around the room, faces showed concern but not panic. This was Strange Dot at the center of the room. Secretary General Yuki Tanaka stood slowly. She was a small woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had led the United Earth Council for 12 years. She had seen humanity through 3 solar crises, 2 colony rebellions, and the assassination of half her cabinet. Nothing surprised her anymore. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," she said quietly. Her aide hesitated. "Ma'am, shouldn't we discuss our response first? Perhaps we could negotiate for better terms. Open the channel." The aide obeyed. On the screens, Ambassador Vethorin appeared, clearly expecting to see a room full of terrified humans begging for mercy. Instead, he saw Secretary General Tanaka standing calmly, hands folded in front of her. "Ambassador," she said, her voice steady, "we have received your terms." Vethorin nodded. "And you accept them?" Tanaka smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was not a nervous smile. It was cold and knowing, the smile of someone holding cards their opponent could not see. "We decline," she said simply. The bridge of the eternal judgment went silent. Officers froze at their stations. Vethorin's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "I'm sorry," he said. Perhaps the translation was unclear. "You decline?" "Your translator works fine," Tanaka replied. "We decline your terms. All of them. Earth will not surrender. We will not disarm. We will not serve anyone." She leaned slightly forward. "You have 72 hours to remove your fleet from our solar system. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. Leave or face the consequences." She paused, and her cold smile widened just slightly. "The choice is yours." The transmission ended. On the bridge of the eternal judgment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Vethorin stood frozen, his mind trying to process what had just happened. In 6,000 years of pacification missions, no species had ever refused. Not one. Young species always surrendered when they saw the power of the assembly fleet. They begged. They pleaded. They offered anything to survive. These humans had smiled and told him to leave. "Ambassador," his tactical officer said carefully, "perhaps they do not understand our capabilities. Should we demonstrate our weapons on one of their outer colonies?" Vethorin shook his head slowly. Something was wrong. He had studied humanity for months before this mission. They were supposed to be fractured, divided, always fighting among themselves. They were supposed to be easy to frighten. The woman who had just spoken to him showed no fear at all. None. Her eyes had been calm, calculating, like a predator watching prey stumble into a trap. "Increase surveillance," Vethorin ordered quietly. "I want to know everything happening on that planet. Every military base, every factory, every communication. Something is not right here." His officers rushed to obey. Far below, on the surface of Earth, Secretary General Tanaka walked out of the Parliament chamber. General Marcus Cole, commander of Earth's combined military forces, fell into step beside her. "They will not leave," Cole said. It was not a question. "No," Tanaka agreed. "They will not. Then we proceed with Prometheus?" Tanaka looked up at the sky, knowing that somewhere beyond the blue, 12 massive warships waited to enslave her world. "We have prepared for this moment for 130 years, she said quietly. "Every hidden shipyard, every secret weapon, every sacrifice made in silence." She turned to Cole, and her eyes were hard as iron. "Wake them all up, General. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity really is." Cole nodded once and walked away, already speaking into his communicator dot above Earth. Ambassador Vethorin waited for the humans to break. He did not know that he was the one standing in a trap. He did not know that humanity had been watching the Watchers. He did not know that every probe, every scan, every analysis the Assembly had conducted over 3 centuries had been detected, studied, and used. The humans were not afraid because they had nothing to fear. The countdown had begun. Ambassador Vethorin stood at the observation window of his flagship, watching Earth rotate slowly below. 48 hours had passed since the humans delivered their impossible response. He had expected them to reconsider. He had expected panic to spread through their cities. He had expected their leaders to come crawling back, begging for mercy. None of that happened. Instead, something far more disturbing was occurring. The humans had gone quiet. "Report," Veteran demanded, turning to his intelligence officer, a nervous creature named Cathal, with too many limbs and not enough confidence. Cathal's voice trembled slightly. "Ambassador, we are detecting unusual activity across the human solar system. Factories on Earth, Mars, and the Jupiter colonies have shifted production. We cannot determine what they are building. Their communications have become encrypted using methods we cannot break." "Cannot break?" Vethorn's eyes narrowed. "We have broken the codes of 1,000 civilizations." "Yes, Ambassador. But the humans appear to be using a new system. Our best analysts estimate it would take 300 years to decode a single message." Vethorn felt a cold sensation creep through his chest. This was wrong. All of this was wrong. Tier 7 species did not have advanced encryption. They did not shift entire economies overnight. They certainly did not refuse surrender demands from a pacification fleet. "What about their military movements?" he asked. Cowell checked his display. "Their visible fleet remains in defensive positions around Earth and Mars. 212 ships total. Mostly small frigates and outdated cruisers. No match for our dreadnoughts. And their population? Surely there is panic among the common people." Cathal hesitated. This was the part he did not want to report. "Ambassador, there is no panic. Civilian traffic continues normally. Markets remain open. Children attend their schools." He paused. "And Ambassador, they are smiling." "Smiling?" "Yes, Ambassador. Across all human settlements, we are observing an unusual behavioral pattern. The humans appear calm. Many are smiling. Workers in factories are smiling while they work. Soldiers are smiling while they train. Even children display this behavior." Cathal's voice dropped. "It is as if they know something we do not." Vethorn turned back to the window. His reflection stared back at him, 4 eyes filled with growing doubt. In all his years of service, he had learned to read species. He had seen fear in 1,000 different forms, across 1,000 different faces. Fear made creatures predictable. It made them weak. It made them easy to control. The humans showed no fear at all. That terrified him. Far below, deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, General Marcus Cole walked through a corridor that officially did not exist. The walls were rough stone and reinforced steel, carved out over decades by workers who had taken their secrets to the grave. Security checkpoints scanned him every 100 meters, verifying his identity through methods both technological and biological. He entered a massive underground chamber and stopped. Before him stretched a sight that would have shocked the galaxy. Ships, thousands of them, arranged in perfect rows, their hulls gleaming under artificial lights. These were not the old frigates and cruisers that the assembly had observed. These were something else entirely. Sleek, angular, built with technology that humanity had secretly developed over more than a century. Colonel Sarah Chun approached him, her boots echoing on the metal floor. She was the commander of the Hidden Fleet, a position she had trained for her entire adult life. "General," she said, "all ships report ready. Cruiser at battle stations. The Prometheus Protocol is fully active." Cole nodded slowly, his eyes moving across the rows of warships. "How long did the assembly watch us, Colonel?" 312 years, sir. Since they first detected our radio signals. And in all that time, they never found this? Chun allowed herself a small smile. "No, sir. They found exactly what we wanted them to find. Old ships. Primitive weapons. A species too busy fighting itself to pose any threat." She gestured at the fleet before them. "They never looked deeper. They never imagined we were capable of hiding anything. Cole thought about the generations of men and women who had worked on this project. Scientists who published false research to mislead alien observers. Engineers who built dummy facilities to attract attention while real work happened underground. Soldiers who trained in secret, knowing they might never see the enemy they prepared to fight. All of humanity, united by a single truth that had been passed down from leader to leader for over a century. They were not alone in the universe, and whatever was out there did not wish them well. Our ancestors detected the first probe in 1892, Cole said quietly. They did not have the technology to intercept it, but they knew it was there. They knew something was watching, and they made a choice. To prepare, Chun said. To prepare. To hide our true strength. To let the Watchers see weakness while we built something they could never imagine. Cole turned to face her. Today, we show them the truth. On the flagship Eternal Judgment, alarms suddenly blared across every deck. Vethorn rushed to the tactical display, his heart's pounding. Report! What is happening? His sensor officer's voice was barely a whisper. Ambassador, we are detecting ship signatures. Thousands of them. They are emerging from locations across the human solar system. Thousands? That's impossible. Our scans showed only 200. The scans were wrong, Ambassador. Or they were deceived. The officer's hands trembled as he worked his controls. Ships are launching from beneath the lunar surface. From inside asteroids. From the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. From locations we classified as barren rock. The tactical display filled with red dots. They multiplied like stars appearing at sunset, spreading across the solar system in every direction. Vethorn watched in horror as the number climbed past 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. How? He breathed. How did they hide this from us? Nobody answered. Nobody could. A communication signal flashed on the main screen. Vethorn hesitated, then accepted it. Secretary General Tanaka appeared, standing on what appeared to be the bridge of a warship far more advanced than anything the Assembly had expected. Ambassador Vethorn, she said calmly, 24 hours remain on our deadline. I wanted to give you one final chance to reconsider your position. Behind her, through massive windows, Vethorn could see ships moving into formation. Hundreds of them, bristling with weapons his sensors could not fully analyze. This is impossible, he stammered. You are Tier 7. You cannot have this technology. You cannot. Your classification system was wrong, Tanaka interrupted. Your assumptions were wrong. Your entire understanding of humanity was wrong. She stepped closer to the screen, and her cold smile returned. You watched us for 300 years and learned nothing. You saw us fight each other and thought we were weak. You did not understand that conflict makes us stronger. You saw our short lives and thought we were primitive. You did not understand that limited time makes us urgent, determined, relentless. She paused, letting her words sink in. Every war we fought taught us strategy. Every disaster we survived taught us resilience. Every moment of suffering taught us to endure. And every second your probes watched us, we were watching back, learning your technology, improving upon it, preparing for the day you would come. Vethorn's mouth opened, but no words came out. 24 hours, Ambassador, Tanaka said. Leave our solar system and tell your assembly that Earth is not a world to be conquered. We are a species that has crawled through fire and radiation and war to reach the stars. We did not survive all of that just to kneel before you. The transmission ended. Vethorn stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by officers who no longer believed victory was certain. He looked at the tactical display, at the 3,000 human warships that now outnumbered his fleet 250 to 1. For the first time in his long career, Ambassador Vethorn of the Galactic Assembly felt something he had only ever seen in conquered species: fear, The hunters had become the hunted, and the prey had teeth they had never shown before. The 72 hours ended at midnight, Earth Standard Time. Ambassador Vethorin had spent those final hours in communication with the Assembly High Command, desperately requesting reinforcements, guidance, anything that might help him understand what was happening. The High Command's response was simple: proceed with the conquest. No Tier 7 species could truly threaten an Assembly pacification fleet. The humans were bluffing. Their ships were likely hollow shells, a desperate display meant to frighten. Destroy a few of them and the rest would surrender, just like every other species before them. Vethorin did not believe this. Deep in his heart, he knew something terrible was about to happen. But orders were orders. The Assembly had ruled the galaxy for 11,000 years. They could not be wrong. All ships advance, he commanded, his voice hollow. Target their defensive line around Earth. Show them the true power of the Galactic Assembly. 12 dreadnoughts began to move, their massive engines burning bright against the darkness of space. Weapon systems powered up. Shield generators hummed with energy that could deflect nuclear warheads. Each ship carried enough firepower to glass a continent. The human fleet waited. They held position near the orbit of Mars. 3,000 ships arranged in a formation that Assembly tacticians did not recognize. The formation made no sense according to known military doctrine. Ships were grouped in strange clusters, creating gaps that seemed to invite attack. On the bridge of the human flagship, the U.S. Defiance, Colonel Sarah Chen watched the enemy approach on her tactical display. Beside her, General Marcus Cole stood with his arms crossed, his face revealing nothing. "They think we're bluffing," Chen said quietly. "Let them think that," Cole replied. "Until they can't." The Assembly dreadnoughts crossed the orbit of Jupiter, their weapons locked onto the human fleet. At this range, a single volley from 12 dreadnoughts would destroy hundreds of ships. The mathematics were simple. The outcome was certain. Ambassador Vethorin gave the order to fire. 12 dreadnoughts unleashed their primary weapons. Beams of concentrated energy, each one capable of cutting through mountains, lanced across space toward the human fleet. At the same moment, thousands of missiles erupted from launch tubes, screaming toward their targets at a fraction of the speed of light. The assault was magnificent. It was overwhelming. It should have ended the battle in seconds. It did not. The human ships moved. They did not dodge randomly or scatter in panic. They moved with perfect coordination, shifting through those strange gaps in their formation like water flowing around stones. The enemy fire passed through spaces where ships had been milliseconds before. Vethorin watched in disbelief as his entire opening barrage hid nothing but empty space. "Impossible," his tactical officer whispered. "No species can coordinate that precisely. The reaction times required. They're linked," another officer said, his voice trembling. "Their ships must be linked somehow. A unified command system. One mind controlling thousands of bodies." Cole smiled slightly on the bridge of the Defiance. "Time to show them what we've been working on. All ships, Prometheus weapons free." The human fleet responded. 3,000 ships fired as one, and the weapons they used were nothing the Assembly had ever seen. They were not energy beams or missiles. They were something else entirely. Concentrated packets of exotic matter, developed in secret labs over decades, accelerated to near-light speed through technology that should not have existed. The first wave of fire struck the Assembly dreadnought Eternal Conquest. Its shields, designed to withstand nuclear weapons, failed instantly. The exotic matter passed through them like they were not there, tearing through armor that could survive direct asteroid impacts. The ship came apart in a burst of light and debris, killing 6,000 crew members in less than a second. 8 more dreadnoughts died in the next 10 seconds. Ambassador Vethorin screamed orders that nobody could follow. His bridge filled with smoke and sparks as enemy fire ripped through his flagship's defenses. Around him, officers died at their stations. Walls buckled. Systems failed. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it ended, 9 dreadnoughts were destroyed completely. 2 more drifted dead in space, their power systems destroyed. Only the Eternal Judgment remained partially functional, its engines gone, its weapons silent, its once proud hull torn open in a dozen places. Vethorin lay on the deck of his ruined bridge, surrounded by the bodies of his officers. Through a crack in the hull, he could see human ships moving past, their formation unbroken, their lights blinking in what might have been celebration. He heard the sound of cutting torches against his ship's hull. The humans were boarding. 20 minutes later, General Cole walked onto the destroyed bridge of the Eternal Judgment. His boots crunched on broken glass and twisted metal. He found Ambassador Vethorin pinned beneath a fallen support beam. Still alive, his 4 eyes staring at the human with a mixture of pain and confusion. Cole gestured to his soldiers. They lifted the beam and pulled the alien free. Medical officers began treating his wounds. They were not cruel. They were efficient. Why? Vethorin managed to say, "How?" Cole pulled a cigarette from his pocket and lit it. The flame flickered in the damaged artificial gravity. He took a long drag, exhaled slowly, and looked down at the defeated ambassador. "You studied us for 300 years, Cole said. You watched our wars. You analyzed our weapons. You counted our ships. And you learned nothing." He crouched down beside Vethorin, bringing his face closer. "Humans don't unite when life is easy. We fight each other when we're comfortable. We argue and divide and waste our energy on stupid conflicts." He tapped ash from his cigarette. "But when something threatens all of us, when something attacks our existence itself, we become something else. We become one." Vethorin's breathing was labored. "One mind. Controlling your fleet. Not one mind. Millions of minds, all choosing to work together. Every pilot, every gunner, every engineer, all connected through neural links we developed in secret, all thinking as a unit while remaining individuals." Cole stood up. "You thought our division was weakness. You were wrong. Our division is what we show the universe when we don't need to be strong. Our unity is what we show when we do." He walked toward the shattered window, looking out at the debris field that had once been an invincible fleet. "You gave us something we hadn't had in centuries," he said. "A common enemy. A reason to stop fighting each other. Every nation, every faction, every person on Earth heard your message and made the same choice. No. No, we will not kneel. No, we will not serve. No, we will not let you take our home." Cole turned back to face Vethorin. "Go back to your assembly. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that Earth is not a Tier 7 world. Tell them that humanity is not a species to be collected and enslaved." His voice hardened. "And tell them that if they ever send another fleet to our home, we will not simply defend ourselves. We will come to them, and we will show them what happens when you wake a sleeping predator." Vethorin was loaded onto a shuttle along with the other survivors. As the shuttle left the ruined fleet behind, he looked back at the human ships one final time. They were already reforming, already preparing for whatever came next. He had come to Earth expecting to conquer a primitive species. He was leaving with a warning for the entire galaxy. The message would reach the Assembly High Command in 3 days. It would spread to every member species within a week. It would change everything. Humanity had announced itself to the universe, and the universe would never forget the lesson learned in the light of burning dreadnoughts. Some species refused to be prey. The news of the disaster spread through the Galactic Assembly like fire through dry grass. At first, no one believed it. A pacification fleet destroyed by a Tier 7 species? Impossible. There had to be a mistake. The reports must be exaggerated. Then the survivors arrived at Nexus Prime, the Assembly's capital station, and told their stories. They described weapons that passed through shields like they were not there. They spoke of a fleet that moved as one organism. Thousands of ships dancing through enemy fire with impossible precision. They whispered about the human general who had walked through the wreckage of their flagship with a burning stick in his mouth, showing no fear, no mercy, only cold satisfaction. The High Council called an emergency session. Representatives from all 4,000 member species crowded into the grand chamber, their voices rising in chaos and accusation. How had this happened? Who was responsible? What would be done? Elder Counselor Vethmer, the oldest and most respected member of the Hegemony Council, raised his hand for silence. The chamber gradually quieted. "We face a crisis unlike any in our history," he said, his voice heavy with age and authority. "A primitive species has defeated an assembly fleet through means we do not understand. This cannot be allowed to stand. If word spreads that the assembly can be defied, our entire order will collapse." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. "Therefore," Vethmer continued, "I propose we dispatch a war armada. 500 ships from 12 member species. We will crush this rebellion so completely that no world will ever dare resist us again." The motion passed within the hour. The greatest military force, assembled in a century, began gathering at the edge of human space. On Earth, Secretary General Tanaka received the intelligence reports with calm interest. The assembly was coming with overwhelming force. 500 warships, each larger and more powerful than the dreadnoughts that had been destroyed. "They learned nothing," General Cole observed as they reviewed the data. "They cannot afford to learn," Tanaka replied. "Their entire civilization is built on fear. The fear of weaker species looking up at the strong. If that fear breaks, everything breaks with it." She turned to her tactical display. "We will not wait for them to reach our home. It is time to take the war to them." The human fleet departed Earth 1 week later. 3,000 ships carrying the hopes and determination of an entire species. They did not head toward the approaching armada. Instead, they scattered across space, vanishing into the darkness between stars. The assembly armada arrived at Earth's solar system to find it nearly empty. Only a small defensive force remained, guarding the homeworld. The enemy fleet commanders were confused. Where had the humans gone? Had they fled? Had they retreated to hidden bases? The answer came 3 days later from 17 different locations across assembly space. Human ships appeared without warning at supply stations, fuel depots, and communication relays scattered across 4 sectors. These were not military targets. They were the infrastructure that kept the assembly functioning, the vital points that allowed fleets to travel and systems to communicate. The attacks lasted less than an hour each. Human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, destroyed everything of value, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. They left no survivors to question. They took no prisoners to ransom. They simply broke things and disappeared. And at every attack site, they left the same message broadcasting on every frequency. "You came to our home. Now we come to yours." Surrender is no longer on the table. Panic spread faster than the human fleet ever could. Trade convoys refused to travel without military escort. Merchant species demanded protection that the assembly could not provide. Colony worlds began hoarding supplies, afraid they would be cut off from the greater civilization. The economy that had functioned smoothly for millennia began to crack. Worse still, rebellions began to spark on subject worlds. Species that had been conquered and classified for generations heard the stories from Earth. They heard about the cold-smiling humans who had refused to kneel. They heard about 12 dreadnoughts burning in minutes. And they began to wonder, if humanity could resist, perhaps they could too. On the planet Kethara, workers in the processing plants stopped working. On the moons of Veth Prime, slave populations seized control of mining facilities. On a dozen other worlds, small acts of defiance grew into larger movements. The Assembly was not just facing a war. It was facing the collapse of everything it had built. Elder Counselor Vethmer sat alone in his private chambers, staring at reports that showed his civilization crumbling. His hands shook as he read message after message describing another attack, another rebellion, another system lost. A communication request appeared on his screen. He accepted it, and Secretary General Tanaka's face filled the display. "Elder Counselor," she said politely, "I thought it was time we spoke directly." Vethmer's eyes burned with hatred. "You have destroyed everything. 11,000 years of order ruined by your arrogance. Your order was built on slavery and fear," Tanaka replied without emotion. "It was destined to fall. We simply pushed it over the edge. What do you want? Resources? Territory? Name your price and this madness can end." Tanaka shook her head slowly. "We do not want your resources or your territory. We want something much simpler." She leaned forward. "The Galactic Assembly will dissolve. Every member species will be given the right to govern themselves. The tiered classification system will be abolished. No species will be ranked above or below another." Vethmer laughed bitterly. "You want us to destroy ourselves. I want you to become something better. A community of equals instead of a hierarchy of masters and slaves." Her voice softened slightly. "We are not your enemies, Elder Counselor. We could be your partners. Humanity has no desire to conquer the galaxy. We simply refuse to be conquered ourselves. And if we refuse your terms?" Tanaka's expression hardened. "Then humanity will make an example. We will dismantle the Hegemony Council piece by piece, system by system, until nothing remains. And the galaxy will remember what happened for the next 11,000 years." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. "You have one solar cycle to decide. Use the time wisely." The transmission ended. Vethmer sat in silence for a long time. Around him, the station hummed with the activity of trillions of beings going about their lives, unaware that their entire civilization hung by a thread. He thought about the species that had built the assembly all those years ago. They had believed they were creating something eternal, something perfect. They had believed that strength gave them the right to rule, that fear was a tool like any other. They had never imagined a species like humanity, a species that fought among themselves until something bigger threatened them, a species that lived short lives but burned bright with determination, a species that smiled in the face of overwhelming force and said no. Vethmer made his decision. He opened a communication channel to the High Council and requested an emergency session. As he prepared his remarks, he realized that he was about to end 11,000 years of history. The humans had not conquered the galaxy. They had simply shown the galaxy what it could be without fear. And that was far more dangerous than any weapon. Elder Counselor Vethmer stood before the High Council with humanity's terms in his hands. Around him, the most powerful beings in the galaxy waited for his recommendation. Some wanted war. Some wanted surrender. All of them were afraid. "We cannot accept these terms," declared High Commander Kethvolume, leader of the Hegemony military forces. "To dissolve the assembly is to admit defeat. Our ancestors built this civilization to last forever. We cannot abandon it because one species refuses to obey. One species has already destroyed a pacification fleet and crippled our infrastructure," Vethmer replied quietly. One species has inspired rebellions across 17 sectors. One species has shown the galaxy that we can be defied. He held up the reports. How many more ships must we lose? How many more systems must burn before we admit the truth? And what truth is that? HFY demanded. Vethmer met his eyes. That we were wrong. That strength does not give us the right to rule. That fear was never a foundation, only a cage. He set down the reports. The humans are offering us a chance to become something better. I recommend we take it. The chamber erupted in argument. Species that had benefited from the hierarchy screamed in protest. Species that had suffered under it saw sudden hope. For hours, the debate raged with no resolution in sight. Finally, High Commander HFY made his decision. He would not accept surrender. He would not watch everything his people had built collapse because of one upstart species. He would crush the humans so completely that no one would ever dare resist again. He gathered every ship still loyal to the Hegemony Council. 400 warships, the remnants of the war armada plus reinforcements from loyal systems. They would make their stand at Nexus Prime itself, the station that had been the heart of assembly power for millennia. Let the humans come. Let them try to take the center of galactic civilization. They would learn that some things could not be conquered. The human fleet arrived 2 weeks later. General Cole stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking at the massive structure of Nexus Prime through his view screen. The station was enormous, a constructed world hanging in space, home to trillions of beings from across the galaxy. Surrounding it, the Hegemony fleet had formed a defensive formation, their weapons aimed outward, ready to die protecting everything they believed in. General, Colonel Chun said quietly, intelligence reports that the civilian population of Nexus Prime numbers over 2 trillion. If we attack the station directly, we will not attack the station, Cole replied. That was never the plan. He opened a communication channel that broadcast across all frequencies, reaching every ship in the Hegemony fleet and every ear on Nexus Prime. This is General Marcus Cole of the United Earth Forces. We have not come to destroy Nexus Prime. We have not come to slaughter trillions of innocent beings. We are not you. He paused, letting his words spread. We have come to end the Hegemony Council. Not the people it rules, but the system that oppresses them. Your fleets cannot stop us. Your weapons cannot protect the leaders who hide behind civilian shields. We will find them. We will remove them from power. And then we will leave. High Commander HFY laughed at the transmission. Remove the leaders? The Hegemony Council was scattered across the station, protected by layers of security that no force could penetrate. The humans would have to destroy the entire station to reach them, and they had just promised not to do that. It was an empty threat. Then the human fleet moved. Instead of attacking Nexus Prime, they split into dozens of smaller groups and jumped to faster-than-light travel. They vanished from sensors, reappearing moments later at locations across the galaxy. The Hegemony homeworlds, not the colonies or the outposts. The original worlds of the species that had founded and controlled the assembly for 11,000 years. The places where their governments sat. The places where their power was centered. The attacks were surgical, precise. Human forces did not bomb cities or destroy infrastructure. They targeted specific buildings, communication centers, government headquarters, military command posts, anything that allowed the Hegemony to control its empire. On Veth Prime, human soldiers in advanced armor dropped from orbit and seized the planetary capital in 3 hours. They disabled every system that connected the world to the greater assembly network, cutting it off completely. Then they left, taking the planetary governor with them as a prisoner. On Cathara, human ships destroyed the orbital defense grid and landed ground forces at the main military base. They captured the commanders, downloaded their strategic data, and departed before reinforcements could arrive. On 12 other worlds, similar operations occurred simultaneously. The hegemony found itself blind, deaf, and paralyzed. Their leaders were captured or isolated. Their fleets could not communicate with central command. Their empire, built over millennia, fell apart in a single day. High Commander Keth Volume received the reports on the bridge of his flagship. Still orbiting Nexus Prime, his hands trembled as he read message after message describing another world lost. Another leader captured, another piece of his civilization crumbling. "How?" he whispered. "How do they move so fast? How do they know exactly where to strike?" No one answered. No one could. General Cole's voice came over the communication system one final time. "High Commander, your homeworlds are occupied. Your leaders are in custody. Your fleets are scattered and leaderless. The Hegemony Council no longer exists as a functioning government." His voice carried no triumph, no gloating. Only calm finality. Humanity did not come to conquer. We came to liberate. Every species in the galaxy will now choose its own path. But let this be understood clearly. His tone hardened. If any power threatens Earth or any world that asks for our protection, they will face the same fate as the hegemony. The age of empires is over. The age of choice begins. The transmission ended. On Nexus Prime, the population watched in stunned silence as the human fleet held position, making no aggressive moves, offering no threats. True to their word, they did not attack the station. They simply waited. Within hours, the first petitions for independence began arriving from subject species. Within days, the old hierarchy collapsed completely. New governments formed. Trade agreements were renegotiated. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves equals for the first time. 2 months later, Secretary General Yuki Tanaka addressed the United Earth Parliament. The great chamber was silent as she walked to the podium, her steps echoing in the vast space. Above her, through massive windows, the stars shone bright and clear. "They thought we were primitive," she said quietly. "They thought we were weak because we fought among ourselves, because we lived short lives, because we feared death." She looked out at the assembled representatives of a united humanity. They did not understand. "We fight because we refuse to kneel. We live urgently because our time is brief. And we do not fear death." She paused, and her voice grew stronger. "We simply hate losing." The chamber remained silent, hanging on her every word. Today, the galaxy knows our name. Dozens of species have requested alliance with Earth. Trade relationships are forming that will benefit humanity for generations. We have gone from an unknown primitive species to a power that reshaped galactic civilization in a matter of months. She turned to look at the stars. But this is not a victory to celebrate with arrogance. It is a responsibility to carry with humility. We did not fight to become the new masters of the galaxy. We fought to end the idea of masters entirely. Her voice softened. "Let us be worthy of what we have built. Let us show the galaxy that strength can exist without cruelty. That power can be wielded with wisdom. That humanity earned its place among the stars, not by conquering others, but by refusing to be conquered ourselves." She straightened, and her final words rang through the chamber. "The galaxy knows our name now. Let them never forget what it means." The applause started slowly, then built to a roar. Representatives from every nation on Earth rose to their feet, united as they had never been before. Far away, on the edge of explored space, a deep space probe detected something unusual. A signal, ancient and powerful, coming from beyond the galaxy's rim. The Assembly's oldest records spoke of why the hegemony had united in the first place. Something had threatened all life, long ago. Something had driven the original species together in desperation. That something was still out there, and it had noticed the light of burning dreadnoughts. The story of humanity was just beginning, and whatever came next, they would not face it alone. The stars watched, as they always had. But now, for the first time in 11,000 years, they watched something new. A species that smiled when threatened. A species that united when challenged. A species that had learned the universe's oldest lesson and turned it into strength. Never look weak. Never surrender. And never, ever stop fighting for what matters. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.